It has been 84 years since we last discussed a vehicle in this series.
But the series in question is, of course, High Rollers. Last time we looked into this series was actually a long time ago. Not quite 84 years or 78 years or whatever that number was that I just said. It's actually about 8 months since we did the last episode, and it's actually one of the smallest series which we've ever done, because it was for the vehicles which cost like 3 million credits or more. Plus, they were generally classics in particular. And funnily enough, we are now featuring the same car that the last episode in this series was also about. But of course that was on Gran Turismo 6, and we discussed the Ferrari 330 P4, and now we are revisiting that exact same car in Gran Turismo Sport. So this is actually going to be the closest time, well, it's definitely been the closest time so far, maybe even the closest time of any series that we've done, to have a car revisited so soon. In terms of the timeline, not so much, but in terms of the episode, certainly the very next one. Now, the car is a very expensive one, just like the Jaguar XJ13 is, part of the new 1.11 pack, of course, and they cost 20 million credits apiece. Now, quite a few people have asked me, what do I think about them costing 20 million? Especially with stuff like the pit lane glitch not working anymore. That itself doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me at all, actually, that the cars cost 20 million. The issue is that we can only earn 20 million. That's stupid, because clearing out your entire bank account on one car and having literally nothing left, what kind of sense does that make? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't make the car feel any more special, because it costs the exact same amount that it already did. You just have nothing left afterwards. So for whatever reason they chose to do that, it's a bit weird. I would have preferred the 50 million cap on Gran Turismo 6, or to be fair, why not have it even higher for those who just want to earn more and more cash. But for whatever reasons, that's the way it is, so I chose to spend all of my credits to pick up the Ferrari. I am going to pick up the Jag as well, but of course I'll need to grind some oval races to get up that cash again, which won't take that long. You can quite easily get that kind of cash in, say, 10 days or even less if you wanted to. So, this particular vehicle is of course a race car. It's a Le Mans car in particular, and it was the car that Ford wanted to beat with the GT40, and of course they did in the late 60s. But the car in particular is a Ferrari, which of course spited Ford, and it's an iconic one. One of the most valuable Ferraris, the P range, in particular the P3, the P4, and the much newer Pininfarina concept version, the P45, is also extremely valuable, especially for a modern car. So what you actually get from this vehicle? Well, the engine is a 4 litre, and of course the specs are very familiar compared to what they were on GT6, but unlike on GT6, you can now tune it in a completely different way, because due to being a race car on Gran Turismo 6, you could not drop the weight. You could increase it, but not take it down. And also, of course, you could take the power down with a limiter, or increase it slightly. If memory serves, I think it was something like 684 horsepower that you could get out of that thing. Now, you're looking at a similar kind of power when upgraded, but the weight can be taken lower. And for those who haven't purchased this car yet, which I think is quite a few people, there is something that you really need to know before you buy this car, and this is quite a shocker, but at the same time, once you know it, not too shocking. And that is the cost of the upgrades on this car is insane. Now, of course, you pay for upgrades with mileage points, but the amount of mileage points is absolutely ridiculous. To upgrade to level 2, not even fully upgraded, but just to go to level 2 for both power and weight on this car, will cost you over 10,000 mileage points. That is absolutely insane. It's actually over 10,200, 5,100 points apiece for power and weight, and then I guess the next level must cost even more. So I don't plan to do that anytime soon. That's like the cost of literally 4 road-going Group 3 cars from the mileage exchange. That's pretty insane just to upgrade a car. So as I said, kind of shocking when you first hear that if you weren't aware of it, but it does make sense. After all, the cars are ridiculously expensive, so it's logical to keep that kind of overpricing, which is justified, but still is fairly ridiculous, to keep that going. Now, in terms of the spec, I touched on the fact that it's familiar, of course, just under 450 horsepower stock, of course being very relative with a car like this, 385 pound-feet of torque, and it's already a very lightweight car. It's a lot lighter, in fact, than most of the other high rollers. It's a lot lighter than the Jaguar, which itself is not a heavy car. It's a lot lighter than the 250 GTO, which once again is not heavy, far lighter than the Mark IV, which weighs a tonne, 1,000 kilos, and various others as well that we had on Gran Turismo 6. But for now, of course, it only really has one primary rival, and that is the Jaguar. And the unfortunate thing, and this is by far the main unfortunate thing I think about both cars, and understandable but still unfortunate, is the category. Gr.X is so stupid. I don't even know why they have a Gr.X in the game. If you're gonna have that class, then just use it for what it should be for, which is absolutely ridiculous concepts, like the Chaparral or the Tomahawks. Anything else can easily be categorized in normal racing. Stuff like the BMW i3 should not be in the Gr.X, and of course I've discussed that before. But these cars once again go to show that. Now I'm really hoping that down the line they do change the categorization and the classes within the game to allow stuff like this to be more useful, because at the moment you're literally paying 40 million credits if you buy both for two classic race cars which you can't race because they're Gr.X. So you can use them for what, one make racing, and that's about it. So not exactly a lot of fun there. In fact, totally pointless. It means that the cars are literally just collector's pieces. And as cool as it is to have a crazy collector's piece, I for one would love to see a return of something like a Ford Model T or the 1886 motor wagons, because although they are useless for racing, they are great collector's pieces. So I'm all for that. But it's just difficult to acclimate to something like that after being able to race them on GT6. And both the Jag and this Ferrari were really good to race with on GT6. But unfortunately, that's just not an option at the moment. As far as how the car has changed, of course the visuals are better. The main point for me is being able to paint it now. That's a huge deal. I always wanted to paint it in yellow instead. I ended up having this Chaparral livery, as you can see, which of course is sacrilege, but who really cares? And, well, not me at least. And as far as the handling, well, it's, you could say better, but it was already very good. It certainly feels more authentic, more accurate, as I've said with all of the older cars, and I would definitely say, and I believe I have mentioned this before with some other vehicles, that with older cars in particular, classics and vintage cars, you can feel the updates that GT Sport gives you in terms of authenticity much more readily. The car feels more like a real old school race car. Not in that it's necessarily difficult to drive, it's actually a very good handling car, but it just feels more like an old car should. It's not just perfect and completely neutral through corners, because it shouldn't feel like that. So that's pretty cool to see. Plus, it sounds pretty fantastic as well, as you can of course hear from the video. So if you do choose to buy it, the main piece of advice I would give for this car is the same as the Jag. Know what you're getting into. If you like it for what it is and don't care about racing it, then you'll enjoy it. But if you want to race, well, of course you're going to be disappointed, at least for now. So we'll have to see what future updates do or don't do about that. But that's it for this pick overall. Of course, I'll see you guys next time, and for now, as always, thanks for watching.